Boy, oh boy, hasn't Big Cat Weekend 2024 been fun? We are talking about our third commitment of the day. And yes, I do know that there was some more after this. We're talking about the third one of the day. This one's still in the 2026 class. Let's get into it and talk about the things that you need to know, facts, and of course, what it means for him and the Auburn Tigers going forward. War Eagle Auburn family, thank you so much for joining us and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. We appreciate you watching today for another live stream, 3 in a row for 3 commitments in the 2026 class. All of this part of Big Cat Weekend, arguably I would say, other than National Signing Day, whichever one you want to call it these days, the most important event in the recruiting calendar for Auburn football. 2024 has been quite productive. Some have said, I've seen it put out there, that this has been the best yet in their years of covering Big Cat Weekend, and it might be the case. But aside from that, let's talk about what's continuing to make that the case. And we are talking about in this stream about specifically the third one of the day, and that is going to be yet another linebacker in the 2026 class. That is JaMichael Garrett, coming from Gulf Shores, Alabama, down there in the southern portion of Alabama. Basically makes that 2 in a row, really, at this point, doesn't it? So we're talking about him today, focusing our discussions around him, the facts that you need to know, what his commitment can mean. We're doing all of this within the context of when he committed. Obviously, things happened after. Obviously, things will change over time. That's for you Bama fans that like to come over to very old videos and say it didn't work out if they decommit. Just as a reminder, it's kind of lame. But regardless of that, we're going to talk about it within the context of what we currently know. So let us know if you have any thoughts, comments, questions about this particular commitment, anything that you'd like to express about that, either in the live chat or on the comments right now. Let's dive into what the things are that you need to know about him. Obviously, most of this is going to be just very surface level stuff because we are so far out. So this is the 2026 class we're talking about. I mean, they're rising juniors, still a whole nother 2 seasons of high school football to play before we're even talking about them signing on the dotted line. So keep all of that, take all that in stride with some of our discussions here today. When you look at this guy in terms of measurables wise, remember this is a linebacker, so that kind of puts you in the mindset of what type of play you're getting, depending on which sites you look at. You're going to find him fitting somewhere in the 6'1" to 6'2" range. 195 to 205, somewhere in that vicinity in terms of measurables as a linebacker. Again, whether you like those measurables or not is up to you. Whether you feel like he fits a linebacker role is up to you. But he obviously still has a lot of time to grow into this role and his time with 2 seasons of high school football left to play. But another linebacker and another one that we're getting out of the lower part of Alabama comes to us from Gulf Shores and plays for Gulf Shores High School. We'll talk a little bit about the significance of that. Again, we talked about that with previous commitments from today, but we'll reiterate that for what you have right now. Another linebacker. So quite the defensive day for Auburn football when you look at it. I think that's the story of today is just defense, defense, defense. And again, this is Hugh Freeze as your head coach. He's the head coach. He's got to have a defense. But, you know, it's just one of those things that's wild. You see such a big day for the defense. So you look at Josh Aldridge, you look at Vontrell King-Williams, who I know has been involved with that, DJ Durkin, obviously, with the linebackers, all of those guys, and the defensive staff, and just the staff as a whole, has had a pretty successful day and should be very, very proud of themselves in regards to what they've been able to accomplish by bringing these guys in here today. Neil's celebrating, saying good to see players from the state of Alabama go to Auburn. It is obviously a huge factor in the recruiting battles, being able to bring them in. More on that in just a little bit. All right, we touched on measurables, position, where he's from, depending on which site you look at. He's going to pretty much fall into a 4-star category for those of you that care about such things. He is very much regarded very well across the board. Auburn had to beat out LSU, seemed to be the primary contender for this one, although being from Alabama, you would expect them to be in the mix as well. Several major programs Auburn had to contend with here and have gotten the in-state talent to stay and fend off the faux Tigers, not the Go Tigers, the faux Tigers, from stealing one from us from South Alabama. Glad to have him as part of the class. Let's dive into what we may think this means for him, for Auburn. Let's start with the class, and this is, again, within the context of when he committed, where everybody's class was at. Now, I will be transparent with you. As of doing this live stream at this moment, logging in, before I checked everything, no more 2026 commitments as of this moment that I know of. So that means we can talk about the class basically today as we know it. This brought Auburn to the #1 overall class in 2026 currently. Now that will change. People will add, Auburn will lose, Auburn will add, and may secure this spot. But for Auburn football, with 5 total commits in this class already, in the 2026 class, to be at #1 already speaks a lot. And what a coordinated effort, I would say, today to bring that hype all together for Auburn to capture the discussion points around the recruiting cycle this weekend and snagging that #1 spot progressively up to #3, #2, and then finally #1 with this one for the 2026 class. So this brings us to 5 total commitments in this class. And we talked a lot about this in the previous streams. In fact, let me give you a quick reminder. If you have not gone back and checked out our What It Means and facts live streams for those particular ones, you want to make sure that you go do that. Hezekiah Harris, Shadarius Tootle, one of the best names ever, by the way. So if you haven't checked those out, please do yourself a service and go get some information on those guys over there. So 5 total commits in the class right now with the #1 overall class at this moment. The second overall linebacker in the class, the first one being Shadarius Tootle. And this now makes it 3 total commitments from the state of Alabama. So we started the day with 2 in this class. Let's break it down. We started the day with 2 in this class, 1 from Georgia, 1 from Florida, 2 of the most important states for us. But your most important is your home state. And the Tigers get 3 on the day. 1 from Huntsville, 2 from the southern part, Mobile, and then Gulf Shores, opposite sides of the Bay Area. But humongous for Auburn to go down there and secure this for the edge position, for the linebacker position with these 2 here. So 2 linebackers in this class. This is shaping up already in the very early stages to be very, very exciting. So that's where the numbers come into play for that. Talked about Mobile, Auburn's obviously going down there and fighting off a stronghold that has been for Alabama over the last several years, but having to contend with LSU too is a huge, huge factor in this discussion as well. Love seeing that we have 3 from this state already in this class. Somebody brought that up in the chat already. Let's talk about what it means in terms of potentially for his playing time, the depth chart. To do that, let's take a little bit of a look at that. We talked about this with Shadarius Tootle. So this will be a little bit of kind of covering over that again. But if you look at what we know currently, and again, still 2 seasons left to be played for this guy even gets on the field if he signs on the dotted line. But we'll talk about based on just what we know currently right now. We do know names like Austin Keys, Eugene Asante, Dorian Mausi, Fanaje, Gote will all likely be gone at that point, even if they had some extra eligibility. They're all listed as seniors currently, even if they had some COVID year out there, they should all be gone, which means it's going to open up for guys like DeMarcus Reddick, DJ Barber, even Robert Woodyard, who's been around for a little while. And then that's not even counting how we factor that in with the 2025 class. So you can see there's going to be a new wave that's already being moved and establishing itself at the linebacker position before these guys arrive, but they're coming in together to be that next new wave is what I would take that as. And when I'm talking about Tootle, we were talking about this particular one and JaMichael Garrett, all coming in together at the same time is going to create great continuity and a very strong backup at that position across the board at the linebacker position. So you should get very, very excited about that aspect of it as well. And then obviously, let's talk about what it means in terms of the rest of the class. Overall, this position, you got 2 linebackers. Auburn traditionally right now in their defense only runs 2 true linebackers. So effectively, you have filled those 2 spots for a recruiting cycle. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're done yet. A lot of the time, as we've talked about, these guys change as they go through the rest of their high school time. But when they get into a college program, somebody could slide into an edge rusher position or something like that. If somebody doesn't fill out and they could almost be, a nickel back or something like that. That's not always the case. I would say that's very rare the case, but you have to kind of figure that in your mind. But for now, let's just assume that we filled the need of those 2 spots that we probably want to fill every year. But it doesn't mean that we're done yet. And I would say that we still have plenty to come in with only 5 in the class. You usually are up into the 20s with each of these classes, depending on what your transfer portal is looking like. And those really do count into your overall numbers too. So there you have it. That is what it means, obviously. That is some of the facts that you need to know about JaMichael Garrett right now. Obviously, if you have any other thoughts, comments, questions about him, about this day, get excited. It's been a great day for Auburn and Big Cat Weekend. We are aware that there is another one. We've addressed it on social media. We hope to do another stream about him either today or the next day, depending on my schedule. As you can see, I'm on the road. I appreciate you being here and hanging out. Do go check out the rest of those live streams that we have already done. If you have not done that, don't miss out on that content too. Other than that, thanks for being here, hanging out, and spending some time hanging out with me talking about Auburn stuff. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.